It was supposed to be a harmless joke. That's what I told myself. Anyway, we were at a friend's birthday dinner, a cozy restaurant. Candlelight flickering against half-empty wine glasses, laughter bouncing off the walls. My husband, Ethan, sat beside me, quiet as always. He's never been a loud one in any room. Calm, steady, the kind of man who listens more than he speaks. I used to love that about him. Lately, though, that calm had started to feel like distance. So when my friend Lily nudged me and whispered something about men who never notice when their wives dress up, I laughed. Too loud. "Oh, tell me about it," I said, smiling as the table turned toward us. Ethan still hasn't noticed I got my hair cut 3 days ago. I could come home with blue hair, and he'd just ask what's for dinner. Everyone laughed. I felt a twinge of guilt, but the attention felt good, like a kind of validation I hadn't felt in a while. Someone joked, "He's probably just scared to say the wrong thing." I grinned and doubled down. "Please." He doesn't say anything. The laughter grew louder. Ethan just smiled faintly, eyes still on his plate. That quiet smile, I'd seen it before. The one that says I've heard enough. But he's too decent to make a scene. And still I didn't stop. I made one more joke. Something about how at least the dog listens to me. The table roared. For a few seconds, I felt like the star of the evening. But when the laughter faded, Ethan finally looked up. Not at anyone else, just at me. His voice was calm, but it cut through the noise. "You know," he said quietly, "it's funny how much you talk about being ignored, when that's exactly what you've done to me for years." It was like the air shifted. The room fell silent. No laughter, no clinking glasses. Just stillness. My heart started pounding. "Ethan," I began, but he raised a hand gently. "It's fine," he said. "Everyone needs a laugh. I just didn't realize my marriage was the punchline." He stood, not angry, not dramatic, just done. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." Then he left. No shouting, no door slamming. Just a sentence wrapped in silence that said more than any fight ever could. The table stayed frozen for what felt like forever. Lily gave a nervous laugh. "He'll cool off," she whispered, but even she didn't sound convinced. I forced a smile. "He's just sensitive." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. The drive home felt longer than it should have. The house was dark. His car wasn't in the driveway. I sat in the living room, still in my dress, staring at the clock. Midnight. 1. Still no sign of him. And for the first time in a long time, I had space to think. Really think. Ethan had always been steady. Present. The kind of man who noticed the little things even when he didn't say much. Somewhere along the line, I was the one who changed. I stopped seeing him as a person and started treating him like background noise in my own story. I thought of all the times he'd asked, "You okay?" And I'd replied, "I'm fine," without even looking up from my phone. The dinners he'd planned that I'd canceled because I was tired. The coffee he'd leave by my bedside that I never touched. He didn't ignore me. I ignored him. The weight of that realization hurt more than his silence ever could. When he finally came home around 2 a.m, he looked exhausted, not from anger, but from disappointment. He didn't shout. He just said quietly, "You embarrass me, Anna," in front of everyone. "I know," I whispered. "I didn't mean to." He cut me off softly. "You never mean to, but you always do." Then he walked past me, straight to the guest room. That quiet hit harder than any argument. The next morning, I heard the shower running. Not in our bathroom, in the guest one. That's when I knew something had shifted in a way we might not come back from. He left early for work, skipping breakfast. No note, no goodbye, just absence. Days passed. He still fixed things around the house, still paid bills, still lived there. But it felt like living beside a ghost. His calm had turned into distance, polite, deliberate distance. And in that calm, I finally saw what I'd done. I'd broken something in him that couldn't be glued back together with apologies. It became clear at my parents' anniversary dinner weeks later. My cousin joked about how I always had the last word. Everyone laughed, except Ethan. He looked at me and said quietly, "She always does." even when it costs her peace. The table went still again. This time, I didn't defend myself. I couldn't. The shame burned too deep. After dinner, I found him outside, watching the city lights. I stood beside him and said, "You don't make jokes anymore." He turned to me, eyes tired. "There's nothing funny left between us, Anna. You took the humor out when you made me the punchline." That broke me. I wanted to say I'm sorry, really say it, but the words felt too small now. Too late. Finally, I whispered, "Ethan, I miss us. I miss the way you used to look at me." He looked at me one last time and said quietly, "Then maybe you should have looked at me when I still did." And that was the moment I realized sometimes the words that destroy love aren't cruel or loud. They're the ones we say with a smile, thinking they mean nothing, until they cost us everything.